Welcome to I Love This Thing So Frigging Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Galya, an exotic animal veterinarian. Welcome to the show, Galya.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great, thank you for asking. So, here is how this works. Galya will have 3 minutes to talk about something that she loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything she wants. Our only requirement is that she loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Galya?
Yeah, you bet.
All right, got my timer here. Now, what do you love so frigging much?
I love scuba diving. It's been a passion of mine for the last several years. I started in 2013, and I haven't been able to stop since. And I think it's just so cool to see different things in a different world underneath the water. And you even get to see different things every single time that you go, even if it's in the same place. And a lot of that has to do with the visibility. And oftentimes you see the animals more when there's poor visibility, but you see the corals when it's very clear. And I think that's because the animals like to hide and they don't really like to interact with us all that much, with some rare exceptions. Some of the things that I've seen while scuba diving, most recently, sharks, jellies. I've even gotten stung by a jellyfish once. That was an interesting experience. Sea turtles, those are my absolute favorite, my favorite animal too. Some lobsters, corals, octopus, cuttlefish, lionfish, and triggerfish. Those are some of the dangerous ones. You definitely want to stay away from them and give them a little bit of space. The lionfish are venomous, and triggerfish will actually take a bite out of people's fins when they're nesting. So just watch out. A couple places that I've dived most recently, I guess my first one was actually not in anything natural. It was a crater in Utah. That's where I got my certification. And they've got some shelves in there that mark the depth. And I think the deepest I went on that dive was about 60 feet. So that was pretty cool. And the way that they gave us our certification under the water was a little diver's fin keychain that they gave to us and shook our hands underneath the water. So that was really an interesting experience I'll never forget. And then I've done a lot of diving in Australia. I lived there for about 7 months in 2014, doing study abroad. And I was living in Tasmania, which is the island off of Australia, although still considered part of Australia. One of the sites was called Tinderbox. It's a kelp forest out there, and you see lots of really cool sharks and lobsters out there. Maria Island, we did a project for research when I was studying abroad out there, looking at the kelp and their CO2 and oxygen emission. We put bags around the kelp plants and measured the pH and everything of the water in there, so that was really cool. Never thought I would do research underneath the water. And then, of course, my favorite place, the Great Barrier Reef. You can't make up anything. Everything there is incredible, as they say it is. And I've actually found that the outer reefs, where there's less public traffic, are even better to see. You get to see more animals, and everything is just a little bit prettier. And then most recently, I went to the Keys at John Pennecamp's Coral Reef State Park and went to Molasses Reef out there. There's a shipwreck and lots of really cool animals out there, and that was really fun. I guess one of the things that I really like about scuba diving is that...
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Dang it, I didn't even get anything. Okay.
Just say that. What's the one other thing you wanted to say?
Oh, I was going to say the places I wanted to go next. So some of the places I want to go next are some shipwrecks, cave diving, cage diving with great whites, and then also I would love to go back to the Great Barrier Reef and see other things. And the animals I'd like to see the most next would be whale sharks, manta rays, sea dragons, and then, of course, cage diving as well, although my parents say that's not a good choice.
That's awesome. Galya, thank you for telling us about scuba diving.
Yeah, of course. This was awesome.
So you listed off a lot of cool animals and things that you've seen when you've gone scuba diving. Do any memories stand out as particularly cool or particularly beautiful? Maybe it was a sea turtle, maybe it wasn't. It sounds like you like those a lot.
Yeah, I love the sea turtles. I saw a bunch of them on one of my dives, and we got really close to them. But they're very skittish animals, so you don't want to get too close. I've got some really cool videos of them. I think some of the cooler ones are the triggerfish and the lionfish, just because I know that they're dangerous. Basically, if you see a triggerfish, you're supposed to swim away because they're guarding their nest. But that was really cool to see them as well.
That is cool. Can you tell a little more about the certification process? So maybe first, like, how did you decide, hey, I want to learn how to do this? And then how did you learn how to do this?
So I wanted to scuba dive at the Great Barrier Reef. That was one of my things on my bucket list. So I made it happen. During undergrad at Colorado State University, they had a scuba diving course. And I took it. It was a night class, and a lot of it is theory first, all of the dangers and all of the safety mechanisms that you have to know about the equipment and everything. And then you get to practice in the swimming pool. And I think for me, the most challenging thing initially getting started was I breathe through my nose a lot. And you can't really do that with a mask. Well, I guess there are some masks now that you can, where you can have that hooked up to the oxygen, but you're breathing through your mouth otherwise. And it's quite dehydrating. So that's kind of interesting as well. And then after you practice in the pool, you get to do your actual certification dive, and they test different skills, like rescue positions. If your regulator, the thing that you breathe through, falls out, what to do. And then, or somebody tries to take it from you, because if somebody's panicking because they're out of air, they might try and steal that. And then also flooding your mask, because you're under the water, and sometimes water gets into the mask and what you do. And there's actually a way to get the water out of the mask while you're under the water without having to surface, which is pretty cool. So, yeah.
So it sounds like they get into literally every possible safety thing you need to know before you even set foot in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, it's a really awesome sport, and a lot of things are very, very well controlled, but anything can happen even to the best diver. And you just have to know the safety things backwards and forwards.
Of course. How long do you usually spend under the water when you go scuba diving?
So usually under an hour. You get a tank of about 1,500 PSI up to 2,000, somewhere in there. And you have to come back to the surface well before you're out of air. That's just kind of the mechanisms that they do, so that you don't get anywhere close to running out of air. But basically, you're never alone when you're scuba diving. You always have a buddy. And all the trips I've been on have a master there as well. And you're just in contact with the master with hand signals to make sure that that they know that you're close to running out of air, or that you're at half tank, and that kind of thing, so that they can plan where they want to go, because you're going back to the boat afterwards. And they may have the whole group ascend if you're running low, or they may have you and your buddy ascend, that kind of thing.
You mentioned in your talk that you saw a shipwreck while scuba diving. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, that one wasn't actually as exciting as I made it sound, but there was, you could see the reel for the anchor that was there, so that was really cool. Part of the shipwreck was really just scattered throughout, and that was at the Pennicamp Coral Reef State Park. But one of the things that I really want to do in the future, there's a wreck of the Rhone in the British Virgin Islands. There's a large sailboat that capsized in, I believe, the late 1800s. And it split, much like the Titanic, where you can see the bow on one side and the stern on the other. So there's actually a 2-tank dive, which is where you get 2 separate dives. So you go one to one site and one to the other in the same day. And that's one of the places I really want to go next with diving as well.
That sounds like it'd be an amazing adventure. Do you have any advice for how to keep all of the important things in mind?
I think it really helps to know your equipment really well. I have my own equipment that I got from one of the dive shops in Colorado. And it really helps to just know what you're using, know what to look for. Check your depth gauge regularly every couple of seconds, kind of like how you check your side view mirror, your rear view mirror in your car, just to make sure that that's appropriate. And then practice. And I think the more dives you log, the more experience you get. I'm over 20 dives now, which is pretty cool. And that's separate dives in each day. So you can do 2 or 3 dives each day safely, but the depth that you can go has to be less after each dive. So you may go the deepest your first dive, and that's just safety so that your lungs don't have any compression injuries or anything with being that far down.
So takeaways from this: safety first, and practice makes perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And and one more thing too. When you're under the water below 10 meters, which is about 30 feet, some of the colors drop out, which is kind of interesting. You personally can perceive it because you're within that depth, but your camera can't really pick it up. If you look at some of the videos, which I think those will be in the description in the links at the very end, a lot of my Great Barrier Reef videos are green and blue, and that's because red is the first color to drop out. And I learned that the hard way the first time. The second time I went back to the Great Barrier Reef, I did have a red filter for my camera, and so that really made a huge difference.
That is fascinating. Galya, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
Of course, this was really fun.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about scuba diving, you can find some links in the episode description. And don't forget to use the hashtag #LoveThisThingCast to tell us about the things you love. I Love This Thing So Frigging Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed by Sophie A. Katz and edited by Melissa Block. You can find us at Through the Window on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Tumblr. That is THROU The Window at all those social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.